Good morning. I'd like to call the May 9th meeting to order. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For open forum, I'll be passing the gavel to the Vice Chair.
I see we have one person here for open forum. Please come up and address us at the podium. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. Scheffler.
Mr. Scheffler.
Well, as usual, when I show up, it's for nothing good. Troy Scheffler, Lake Edward Township. So you guys got served, actually somewhat relatively disconnected from what I'm talking about now. But I just want to go over a few emails that I ran across, and this has to do with the Lake Edward Township Cartway petition that I had filed a while ago. And it's actually rather concerning what you guys are trying to do and what you guys are getting involved with. I think that emails kind of speak for themselves. Now, following this petition that I filed with Lake Edward, Crow Wing County had nothing to do with this until Rosemary got it involved. So when Lake Edward Township tried to stiff me and coerce me and defraud me out of $1,300 that I didn't owe, and it's coming pretty clear that I don't owe it from the entities that are investigating it, I'll read an email that came back after they tried doing it, and this was from the Crow Wing County Attorney's Office. I've had a chance to review the documents that you have provided. In addition to the email from the attorney that represents the township, the request is based upon their belief that they can assess the unpaid attorney fees as a service charge under Minnesota Statutes 366.012. Based upon my review of the relevant statutes and case law, it is our office's opinion that the unpaid attorney fees do not qualify as a service charge under Minnesota Statutes 366.012. Therefore, the fees cannot be assessed to the property owner. Let me know if you have any further questions. What's interesting about this, how this all started really in the involvement with the county is statute, even if this even applied, requires the township to certify the charge. You guys might want to look at your records because it asks the county to certify the charges. Township never certified the charges. But yeah, you guys went out of your way to put it on my taxes anyhow. So, how did that happen? Well, let's see here. In October 20th, right around when Rosemary was claiming to the paper that she was running this real clean campaign, she was behind the scenes talking to Mr. Griffin, Land Services. If the attorney for the Association of Minnesota Townships says this is an allowable expense, why does Crow Wing County have a different opinion? In the email thread, it stated that Lake Edward's lawyer is willing to help you if you need any help! Exclamation point. Have you reached out to their lawyer for his point of view? If not, please contact him before making any final decisions. This is a very important issue. Thank you. Well, that's strange. Why is it so important? That's pretty bizarre. Of course, that was during the campaign. And this was actually addressed to Gary Griffin. This didn't go to the county attorneys. It's pretty clear that she's asking Gary Griffin to go over the county attorney's office and address the matter with the township's attorney. Then I run across another email. This one came from Tim Hool. We recently received a notice from Lake Edward Township asking us to certify on the tax rolls an assessment for their legal costs associated with a petition from Troy Scheffler for a cartway. The petition was withdrawn after Mr. Scheffler did not win the court case that he sued the township over the cartway issue. Not sure where that came from, but I'm assuming Rosemary, since she was the one that was at all these township meetings. And that's not true, Tim.
Mr. Scheffler, your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and just one last thing. When you're talking to county official or any officials, by the way, Mr. Lubke, do it to my face, not behind my back. Because they tell me.
If it please the board, I wish to pass the gavel back to our chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Review and approve the minutes from the April 25th County Board meeting.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and approve the agenda.
No changes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Lubke. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I just have one question on 5.5. I just need to have some understanding what that is for. It's the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement. If somebody could address that.
Is there anyone who can address 5.5 St. Louis County Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Agreement? If not, we'll just pull it from the agenda and table it until we have some information.
Could you address that, Andy?
Madam Chair, board members, I just want to make a comment about this. St. Louis County Sheriff had contacted us, wanted to review the standing mutual aid agreement that we've had with them for quite some time. No real changes other than he's the new sheriff and he would like to just have it reviewed as it was written and have us continue to follow the mutual aid agreement we had with them. There was no significant changes other than the naming of the sheriff's office and incorporating what they're already doing there. He just wanted to reiterate the mutual aid agreement was to continue our relationship that we've already had.
Madam Chair. Andy, do we have that with all counties in Minnesota, or why is it, would just seem like with this one, it's it's the first one I've seen.
Well, Region 2 is the area that we're in, and we have mutual aid agreements with those counties. Not all counties in the state, but mutual aid with those particular
Okay,
counties that are in
okay.
our region.
So it's just one that he didn't have up to where he thought
Right,
it should be, and he brought it back to our attention. Okay.
Correct.
That answers that. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Okay.
I have no further question on that.
Madam Chair, if there's no other questions, I would make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next thing is community services.
Krista, I think you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm here this morning to talk about the REAM grant that Crow Wing County Community Corrections applied for in February and was notified by the Department of Corrections that we were successful in getting in March. This grant is a grant specifically for remote electronic alcohol monitoring. It's specifically for adult impaired drivers, DWI offenders who are considered indigent and ordered by the judge to be on alcohol monitoring. Indigence is defined as being public defender eligible. So we were notified that we received this grant, and this will help us with those clients that cannot afford to pay, who are ordered to be on the alcohol monitor by the courts, and a lot of times are statutorily required to have certain conditions. It will help ease this hardship for those clients, as well as have a positive impact on public safety to help monitor the conditions ordered by the court for those offenders. Will help them be able to get out of jail and maintain their employment as well. 50% of the fees that are collected for those ordered on this monitor would be covered for those offenders that are determined and meet the criteria to being indigent. Are there any questions at all about the grant or the data that was provided in the application or contract? Our request would be that the board authorize the use of these REAM grant monies to offset the costs for those indigent clients who are court-ordered to be on this monitoring program.
Madam Chair, if I might ask, Krista, the numbers that you gave us show $11,000. This is a $10,000 grant over the course of 2 years. You'll be covering the difference in your budget?
Yes, actually, we're already supervising them, so some of those costs are already built into the budget that we're already supervising those clients anyway.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I would move the approval.
Okay, we have
Second.
a motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Barrows. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Land Services. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Board, Madam Chair. So what we have before you today are 4 land use map amendments that went to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment last month. The first item that we have on the agenda would be the Karen Dombovi request. This is a request to go from the ag forested zoning, which is a 35-acre minimum, to rural residential 10. Could we zoom down to the zoning map? There we go, right there. Yep, perfect, thank you. So you can see on this here, the area that's in this tan colored is rural residential 10. The dark green is in the ag forested district, and then this is our RR20. And so they're just asking for this to go and to be land use map amendment to go to the RR10 district. So Planning Commission recommended approval, and from staff perspective, we think it's appropriate, and recommend approval is also. We'd be looking for a motion to approve. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Karen Dombovi.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lubke, second by Commissioner Hoag. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is for a Jeff and Wendy Holder. This is a property in Platte Lake Township, and what they're looking to do on this is to go zoning from a rural residential 20 to a rural residential 10. And you can see here, this would be the ag forested district, and then this would be the RR20. Is there another map, Therese, that would be, there we go. And so they're asking for this one to go to R10. There wasn't any R10 in the area. We have this in adjacent properties. This is County Road 2 here. This is Meadowview Road. But the board felt it appropriate based on some of the similar land uses within the area, and plus it was adjacent to an existing roadway. And so they felt that going from the R20 to the R10 in this was appropriate. This was also reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on April 20th, and based on the recommendation, they recommend approval, and staff recommends the same also. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Hoag. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is another land use map amendment for Norman and John Kroger and Frederick Jr. This is up in Ideal Township. What they're looking to do is to rezone this property from rural residential 5 to rural residential 2.5, involving approximately 60 acres. It's these parcels here that you see here. This is County Road 16, We have Pine Terrace Road here. This is the Upgard wildlife management area that's up off of 16. And then the areas that you see here in the yellow are residential 2.5. The areas in blue are the 5 acre. And then when you see this blue color here, that around the lakes, that's the shoreline district. And then we've got a couple of commercial properties. This applicant actually came in a couple months ago to apply, and they actually applied for a variance because they were looking to create some lots that would not meet the lot width for the rural residential 5 zoning. And so if you look in the ordinance, in Article 14.2 density, it talks about R5 minimum lot width would be 300 feet. When they go through the subdivision and reorganize these lots, they're going to be about 220 feet wide. And so at that point, I recommended that they reconsider their application from a variance to a land use map amendment because at the end of the day, our goal is to avoid variances. We don't want to go through variances. That's kind of our last option, and we use all of our other remedies before we go that way. And I felt comfortable that this made sense to go to the 2.5 zoning because of the zoning here and that also to the north. This did receive a recommendation to approve from the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment on April 20th, and it also got a recommendation from Ideal Township to approve the rezoning as requested. I'd be happy to answer any questions, otherwise I'd recommend approval.
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Yep.
Up there, how will access be gained on, where it's divided by 4?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Barrows, thank you for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that earlier. There currently right now is an access point up here off of 16, but the Highway Department has said that any future access to these lots would be off of Pine Terrace down here, and the applicant is aware of that. So, they'll be able to put from Pine Terrace Road, and the township is aware of that too.
Okay, thank you. Have no other questions?
Madam Chair, so the access off of 16 is just to one of those lots then?
Correct. Yep, it's right.
It's that one in the corner there?
Yep, right there. You can see if you go back to the aerial, you can see the access that's there. Right, if we can scroll up, trees.
Are the rest of those lots then landlocked?
Right there. Yep. No, what's going to happen is that when they're going to be, there's going to be a administrative subdivision and a boundary line adjustment to refigure the lots because they're looking to get the lots into the family. And so there's going to be an easement, there'd be access off of here, and then to get back to these lots would be an easement.
They'll have to do an easement across?
Yeah, they'd have to do an easement, absolutely.
And it's all owned by the same family?
Correct. Yep, and they're aware of that. Yep, that's their plan is to do easements, so.
Okay, that's all I had, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Barrows. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We have one more item for another land use map amendment request. This is located in Oaklawn Township, and what they're looking to do on this request is to go from rural residential 10 to 2.5 zoning. This up here is rural residential 5 acre. They want to take this and put it into 2.5 acre zoning. Teresa, if you could just go down to the next one. There we go. And so this one, again, they're looking to have that 2.5 acre zoning. You can see that there's similar requests out in the area. They've got some 2.5 acre zoning down here and to the south. This was also recommended to be as approval from the Planning Commission. This was on a 3-2 vote, just to be clear. The board had a little bit more concern about this because they didn't feel, 2 members didn't feel that there was enough proximity to 2.5 acre zoning for that, that they didn't feel like it was appropriate, but the other 3 board members did. So I think what we're finding as we go through some of these applications and working with folks is that we're looking at trying to help folks figure out how to get some of these smaller lots, because these 10-acre lots seem to be not what people are looking for in some of these areas. And so we're trying to work through as a transition of going from, and that was why this one, in my mind, made sense, because you've got 2.5 acre zoning in the area, but then you've got 5 acre here, you got 10. And so I thought from that perspective of being a transition from 5 to 2.5 into that 10, I thought that made sense, and that's why we recommended 2.5 acre on this request. From a staff perspective, I recommend approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, this is in my district. I do know Warren and Bev very well. I've known them for 40 years. They're very reasonable people, and I did listen to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that night on this, and it certainly makes total sense to me. So with that, I would make the motion to approve this land use map amendment 7.4 on the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. What I have before you today is our subordination agreement between Minnesota Power, the MPCA, and Crow Wing County. This agreement is the final piece that we need before we enter officially into the closed landfill program for our SW111 landfill. We have been working towards finalizing our entry since 2017. In 2017, we worked with Senator Root at the time to modify the closed landfill statute to enter this landfill and the adjacent Potlatch sludge area into the closed landfill program. We went through many edits to agree on access, definitions, what our responsibility is, what the MPCA's responsibility is. And in 2021, we agreed to final language. And at that time, we had to figure out how many utility easements were on that property, and we found only one, which was for Minnesota Power. So since then, it's taken about 3 years to get to this final subordination agreement with Minnesota Power and the MPCA. And what this does is it defines the easement area for Minnesota Power and confirms that Minnesota Power and the MPCA agree to let each other have access to the property to conduct their business. And so once this is signed, we can move on to the final official entry into the closed landfill program. And at that time, what that means is once we're officially entered into the program is all of the liability is transferred to the state and no longer on Crow Wing County. That includes monitoring, maintenance, any investigations or remediation actions that need to be taken. And that's what I have. Is there any questions? And also we pulled up a map here just to show you what area of the landfill is going into this closed landfill program. So the entry to the landfill is kind of on the bottom right corner of the picture there. So this is just north of where the office is when you drive into the landfill.
Are there any questions? Do we have a motion for the recommended board action?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The last thing Land Services has this morning is a request for the chair to sign a letter of support in attempting to acquire about 109 acres of property in Center Township. The map up there will show you where it's at. And the reasons for this request is, while we definitely would be able to manage this for recreation and timber, this has a very popular snowmobile corridor that runs through the middle of two of the parcels, and Right now, we only have a forestry-only easement across this parcel. That's quite lengthy. That we still would have a portion of that remaining on private land, but this would really assist if that ever came into issue. If the owner doesn't want it, then we have some conflict trying to gain access somewhere else. Everything in red is private currently. Unshaded is pretty much tax forfeited property. So this would improve our access to our already land holdings in the area, secure permanent trail through two of the pieces. And so we thought these were some of the remaining conservation fund lands that we were interested in acquiring. For FYI, total tax on these three parcels annually is about $1188, or you can say about $1,200, which wouldn't be collected in the future. Will I take any questions?
Well, Madam Chair, just a question. So the letter, a letter of support, so the Conservation Fund would buy it? And, or just, can you just explain what the procedure would be?
Yep, so currently the Conservation Fund has already acquired this land. This is old potlatch land. So they bought all the potlatch land in the county, except for a handful of parcels. We would work with the Northern Land and Waters organization to try to secure grant funding to purchase the property from the Conservation Fund, and acquire the property and put it into our portfolio of basically 105,000 acres for timber and recreation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So, Madam Chair, just clarify, we would go after grants to purchase. What if we don't get the grants?
If we don't get the grants, I would probably come back to see if the board had an appetite to pay for it ourselves. But we thought the first attempt was, frankly, to use someone else's money.
So what's the value of that property?
Oh, I didn't bring the values. In that area, roughly, it's probably, there's some swamp on there. God, I didn't bring the values, Steve. I always get the one piece of information not here that you asked for.
And the one that Steve asked too.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that later, Gary.
Sure.
All right.
Do we have a motion for the letter of support?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, County Engineer.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Item 8.1 on the agenda relates to a project in Cross Lake from last year on County Road 66. We had a joint project with the city of Cross Lake. The city actually took the lead on the project. It involved sanitary sewer extension for the city, some water quality improvements, and then also road reconstruction. Our original cost share agreement with the city included that we would pay the county share of the water quality improvements immediately upon receipt of invoice. And then we had that we would pay the road share, the county share of the road project in 2024. It's kind of standard practice for us when a local agency notifies us that they would like to do a project or join in on a project. We put it in the 5th year of our 5-year plan, just so it doesn't negatively impact any of our own program that we already have scheduled. So we put that in the 2024 reimbursement. The project's complete now. We have final costs. The city is requesting that amount of the payment that was going to be reimbursed in 2024 be reimbursed now with the rest of the reimbursement. We do have the funding to do that. We had been talking with the city earlier this year, so we actually looked forward and put it in our new 5-year plan as a reimbursement for 2023. And the city wrote a letter that's in your packet outlining how they could save some bonding costs and interest costs if the county could reimburse that cost in 2023. So we're able to absorb that, and we would recommend doing that. Also here today is Mike Linus, Cross Lake City Administrator, and I'll ask Mike if he would like to say anything.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. This was just another example of the city's great partnership with the county and Crow Wing Soil and Water Conservation District. This was quite a challenging project for us. And we hit what we call the trifecta because we hit all 3 holidays in the summer due to weather. If you remember, we had 2 storms and we had a gas line leak during the project. And we had lots of rain, and then we made some change orders doing the project because when we started the project, we found that the curbing on the county side just wasn't up to par. So we added some project costs, and that's what we're asking for reimbursement today. Now, Rob mentioned the contract between the cost share agreement calls for payment in 2024. You do have, as he said, you do have the option to pay it no later than 2024. My understanding is that the project is funded with the local option sales tax and along with some state aid funding. So it's not levy dollars that you're moving forward to the city. We did go ahead and reduce the amount of our bond in anticipation and talking with Rob and Tim on this project that we would get reimbursed this year. Everyone is seeing what's been happening with bond rates. So we had to go ahead and issue bonds before we got to this point to take advantage of rates at that time. So the city would really appreciate if, you would approve Rob's request on this and Tim Bray's request to pay the full amount this year. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I might ask a question, I seem to be the only one asking questions today, but, so here's my question. This $600,000 will come out of the fund balance, is that correct? Is that what we're looking at, or did I misunderstand that?
It's in our fund balance. It wouldn't reduce our fund balance below the recommended levels.
Okay.
So it's really moving about half of the project reimbursement ahead from 2024 to 2023, and we have budgeted for that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I think this is an opportunity to do a nice thing for Cross Lake, and they're looking at how they handle their money in a appropriate manner. So I guess if there's no other questions, I will make the motion to approve.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Lubke. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Ditch 13.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am back before you from the last meeting where the Ditch 13 maintenance contract was tabled due to some needing to update some budget numbers. In the packet, you'll see that the original contract price is in the yellow, the revised contract price is in the green, and after it was let, Mr. Holmvig and I had discussed removing 2 line items. Those 2 line items accounted for $84,500 based on assumptions of excavating portions of the ditch. He bid those based on a risk that he might assume without knowing exactly where those locations were going to be, and was more than agreeable to pull those from his contract, or from this contract, and bid it as it comes up competitively. So you will see the revised price based on assumptions. Again, this contract is, if we need the work, we pay for it. If the work is not needed, we don't pay for it.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, since I'm the one who tabled it last time, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lubke, second by Commissioner Barrows. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the county sheriff. Do you have anything you'd like to share? No. Okay, thank you. County Attorney?
I have nothing for the board this morning either, Madam Chair, but I'd sure be happy to answer any questions if anybody had any of myself.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, County Administrator.
Madam Chair, it is 9:30. We do have an advertised public hearing at 9:30. I'm going to be here either way. Would you like to move to that? And
Why don't we?
I'm not sure anybody's here for it, but it is past 9:30.
All right, let's go on to the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I would move that we go into the public hearing to revise the Land Services 2023 fee schedule.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows to open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone?
Just wanted to maybe explain what the hearing is for. So last year, a fee was added to the fee schedule for a $100 fee to provide an on-site visit. And we did have our contractors meeting this spring, and some of the feedback we got from our contractors was that was a kind of a roadblock and a hurdle to getting some of the fee, or getting some of the on-site visits with our staff. And with the nominal amount of that is the amount of revenue generated, this is my recommendation was to eliminate that fee and to have the on-site visits come at no cost. I think what we're trying to avoid is working with our contractors and landowners before they do projects, so that we can trying to avoid and minimize the after-the-fact issues that we've been seeing in the recent years. So that's the purpose of what we have today.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair. Chris, will other people, you said it was brought up at your contractors meeting when you met with the contractors. Do the residents that live on the lakes, will they know? I mean, is there any way that you're going to let them know that, if you've got something you're thinking about doing, before you go ahead and think you can sneak it through, would you please come and ask us?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I don't know how you want to get that out
well,
there.
I think it makes sense to put out a press release, so we put in the paper so that people are aware of that. And we're also going to send out we have a really good contact list for our contractors that we work with, and so we'll send that out to them so that they're aware of it too. I want our staff to be out at the site working with landowners, trying to provide them advice to best ways to make sure that they are developing their property, according to our ordinance and according to best management practices. As we all know, water quality is important, and so we want to make sure that we're assisting our landowners with making good decisions on the land.
I think it'd be a lot more proactive than seeing those after the facts come up.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any more discussion from the board? Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this? Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak? Third time, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak?
Madam Chair, I would so move that we close the public hearing on revising the Land Services 2023 fee schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion for the resolution?
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the attached resolution to revise the Land Services 2023 fee schedule.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Okay, now County Administrator.
Madam Chair, members, we met yesterday with our website redesign committee at the senior management team meeting, and it was just to have them help us to understand what are some of the improvements that we're going to try to make to our website. I wouldn't call this a wholesale overhaul. It's more like getting a new set of drapes. And so I think it'll be an updated website. It's going to be easier to navigate. It'll be nicer. But it won't be radically changed. So I don't think the public is going to have a big learning curve. We also talked about our HR director recruitment. We have been unsuccessful in landing an HR director through the conventional processes. SMT met and had a discussion about next steps, and I hope to have some proposals for your consideration within a week, probably at the next Personnel Committee meeting. That's what we talked about yesterday. Happy to answer any questions about that or anything else related to county government.
Madam Chair, a question for the county administrator. So with that said, I think this worries me and it worries the entire county board of trying to retain good people so that we can do good work for the citizens of Crow Wing County. We've lost 3 finance directors, not because of anything we've done, because the county can't pay. Government jobs aren't meant to be like going to some big corporation or something like that. And so I think we're going to have some hard conversations of what are we going to have to do? Because I don't know that we can compete with the private sector. I guess people are just going to have to make up their mind. They either want to work in government or they don't. But any thought? That's more of not really a question, but just something that worries me, because we have great people here, but I don't begrudge anybody that wants to leave here. If they've got to take care of their own family, and if they can make more money, more power to them. But I'm just concerned about trying to retain these good people that we have here. So it was more just a thought. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not, but.
This is the most challenging labor market any of us have seen in our lifetimes. And I hope our kids understand that this is not a normal labor market. Jobs aren't usually this plentiful. I remember, and all of you remember, trying to get your first job, and you worked a lot harder at it then than we are today. That labor market has impacted county government just as surely as it has impacted every employer in our community. And so it is challenging. And we see a recruitment like this that, back in the day, you'd post a job, you wouldn't advertise very broadly. People would be looking for the posting, and you'd get 50 applications, and you'd hire someone. And that's not what we're seeing today. And so I think it is a challenge for us. I don't think we are ever going to be able to compete with the highest private sector wages. And yet, I also don't want us to compete at the lowest end of that competitive scale either. We can't afford the highest. We can't afford more than the lowest. And so we're picking where we want to be on the continuum of turnover. We don't set the market rates for pay, the minimums for entry level, the maximums that you can earn for those skills, talents, and abilities. We don't set that, but the invisible hand, the market, sets those. We're just picking where we want turnover to be on that scale. And so we're trying to pick a reasonable degree of turnover that we could sustain. Too much is a bad thing, and some would argue too little is a bad thing as well. Very challenging.
Very.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Jail Health Services.
I do have a request for board action in front of you. I'll present, but the reality is this is the culmination of a lot of work from a lot of people, all of whom I think I see in the room today. So I really want to thank them for all of their efforts. You may recall that we found ourselves in a very dire set of circumstances in the middle of December when we learned that MEND had declared bankruptcy and provided Crow Wing County notice that they would no longer be able to provide jail medical services for us after February 1st. In December, we heard that MEND was not paying its employees, and so we were concerned about the loss of that staff capacity before we would even have any long-term solution put in place. We went about the business, we negotiated with MEND to end the contract early, December 31st, and then we temporarily hired those employees so that we would have the right staff to do a jail nursing service. Essentia Health graciously agreed to come in and provide a medical director for us to help us to provide that service. That is what we have been doing since then. So we have a temporary situation set up. We then went out and tried to look at the full range of options that you would have for consideration. In your packet, I listed the 3 that we came up with. Advanced Correctional Health Care, that's a vendor who specializes in jail health services to local units of government. Essentia Health, which is a variation on what we are doing today, but it would be Essentia taking over all of the jail medical services. Or a Crow Wing County option, some variation on doing what we're currently doing. I have the list of folks there that helped us to vet the proposals. We also needed to make sure that each of the proposals was going to have kind of an apples-to-apples comparison, so we needed to make sure that they all contained similar kinds of things as best we could. I feel like we do have decent apples-to-apples comparisons, not perfect, but decent ones. The quotes that we received, on its face, it looks like the county one might be a little bit less expensive, but it is only by $40-some thousand. If we go that alone, then any liability is going to accrue to us solely. If we went with ACH or Essentia, then there is more of a shared liability model. For the $40,000 difference, and because I don't know that I think we're 100% confident that we could deliver the solution at that cost, the work group is recommending that we enter into an agreement between Crow Wing County and Essentia Health to provide jail health services consistent with the attached proposal. That is going to be subject to review and approval by the county attorney, and further to approve the attached budget amendment as well, because this will cost us more in 2023. We believe there probably will be some offsetting costs from increased jail revenue that also was not budgeted for this year. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, there is this is a concept proposal at this point. And so I also need you to understand Essentia's attorneys need to get involved. Our county attorneys need to get involved. This is approving that we're moving towards a final agreement. And they're going to continue to provide the services that they have been until we can enter into that final agreement. So this is really moving that forward to getting a final contract for your consideration.
And I see on here it's at the approval of the county attorney, so
Correct.
I'll feel better after he reviews it.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, one question, just for clarification. The current nursing staff are temporary employees of Crow Wing County.
Correct.
Will they be employed by Essentia then?
We can't commit to that. I think that is Essentia's intent. That is what we tried to engineer. These are capable, experienced staff who know what they're doing. When I talk to Essentia, they say, look, they have the same difficulties in recruiting that we just talked about. It doesn't make good sense for them to go out and try to find new people to do what experienced people are already doing. I think that's what's going to happen. I can't guarantee that, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Anybody else got anything to add?
State your name and address for the
My name is
record.
Amber Scott. I can speak to this because I was just recently institutionalized in Crow Wing County Jail, and I had to endure some medical difficulties, obviously. I was arrested without just cause or due process. All that aside, what I experienced while I was in the jail was incredibly positive. So the medical side of your jail program, honestly, as an inmate, you already feel discriminated against automatically, and you don't feel like your health is going to be taken seriously whatsoever. But that's not what I experienced while I was there. So whatever you choose to do in this, as long as you make sure you focus on good people that actually care about the inmates, I think you're going to be okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Hoag. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Mr. Heinzman, do you have anything to add?
Have an update, but I did not officially schedule time to be accepted
I couldn't hear him. Can you come up to the microphone?
Said he does have an update. He didn't schedule time to do so, and he's asking whether or not you would be willing to consider it.
Yes, I would be.
There you go.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ken Heinzman. I represent Congressman Pete Stauber in the West Wing of the 8th Congressional District, and I've prepared for you a brief update on Pete's recent efforts in district and in D.C. Last week, Pete was pleased to welcome 5 of his congressional colleagues to the Iron Range for a Natural Resource Committee field hearing on mining, and joining them were local experts to discuss the mining potential and community support for mining during the hearing. During the hearing, they heard about challenges we face in accessing our mineral resources and the harm done to our local economy by project delays. The simple truth is that the Iron Range thrives when we're mining at our full potential, and we desperately need to get shovels in the ground. On Wednesday last week, our House Republican majority passed the Limit, Save, Grow Act to restore fiscal sanity in Washington and grow our economy and avoid default on our debt. According to the Congressional Budget Office, this bill would lead to $4.8 trillion in savings for American taxpayers over the next 10 years. Pete's Permitting for Mining Needs Act was also included, which promises to unlock the full potential of America's mineral resources. Recently, Congressman Pete Stauber voted to protect fairness and safety in women's sports by supporting the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, ensuring that women and girls are not forced to compete against biological men. And lastly, Pete introduced the bipartisan Small Business Payment for Performance Act. It's a fact that small businesses are the economic engine of our economy, and this bill aims to avoid placing undue burdens on small businesses while fulfilling government contracts. Ultimately, this bill will result in more small businesses competing for federal contracts and more economic prosperity for our communities. And that concludes my brief update. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you so very much.
Appreciate the time, Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, it is time to go to a closed meeting.
Madam Chair, could I add one more thing under additional business?
Mhm.
Probably people are wondering, why has he got this crazy green suit on? It's not St. Patty's Day, I'm sorry to tell you that. But actually, it is, and Commissioner Barrows and all the board, it's Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And I got an email from somebody yesterday, Carrie, I think, and to point out, wear green today to be in support of Mental Health Awareness Month. I hate to admit this, but I look at my Facebook account a lot, and there's a lot of videos of a lot of people that are having mental health challenges on there. Just a lot of them, and it's kind of scary because I don't know that the support system is out there to help these people, and I don't know what the answer is. I know that years ago it used to be an institutional setting, and then society decided that the institutional setting was not the proper way to take care of people with mental health issues. But I still think that the legislature and all of us need to try to figure out how to help people that are struggling with mental health issues, because there's a lot of homeless people all over this country, and it's really, a lot of it is due to mental health. And so that's why I'm wearing green today, and I guess there's a walk at 2 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, is there? Okay, so that's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's time to go to closed meeting. Can we take a little break, a 5-minute break before that? And we'll clear the room.
Madam, why don't we, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, a motion to go into closed session and then a recess.
Okay, motion to close.
Madam Chair, I would so move. Madam Chair, I would so move that we go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. She has to get there.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Good morning,
Amy.
Madam Chair and Commissioners. Today I'm here to ask to enter into a contract with our Teamsters 346 non-licensed group. This is a group of 10 employees from our sheriff's office, including our jail sergeants, our emergency management coordinator, and the dispatch supervisors. The key recognition of the settlement agreement includes a full paid holiday for Christmas Eve, bereavement leave to include the definition of for family member to include life partner, healthcare savings plan increase contribution from $25 per month to $35 per month, a deferred compensation match of up to $50 per month, and employees do have to be participating in that in order to get the $50 because it is a match. Increasing the shift differential from 70 cents an hour to $1 per hour, and it is a 3-year contract agreement. As far as the wage settlement piece of things, it is following our standard performance-based pay salary range increase in 2023 for 2.5%, but adding an additional 2% increase on top of that standard performance-based pay adjustment. In 2024, to move the salary range to 90% of the metro, plus a 2.5% increase to the salary range, and then again, that additional 2% on top of the performance-based pay adjustment. And same with 2025, moving the salary range by 2.5% and providing an additional 2% increase on top of the performance-based pay adjustment. So I'm looking for your approval to enter into a contract with Crow Wing County and the Teamsters Local 346 for the non-licensed group in the Sheriff's Office for years 2023 to 2025.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve that settlement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if there's nothing else to come before the county board, I would move that we adjourn.
Second that one.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.